Yeah, as Zach said, I am doing a lot of different things. I'm a librarian by trade, and that's what I'm going to be talking about a lot today, sort of how library science principles play into what we've been talking about today. I must admit, I'm sort of semantic layer adjacent, so I really should have come to the workshop yesterday. Those of you who were here learned a lot about that, but I've learned so much today as well. So I'm looking forward to spending the next few minutes with you. I'll talk about a few slides, and then we will have a little bit of a low-tech interactive exercise, maybe get our energy back up again. So the basic premise of what I'm going to talk about is that librarians are the original semantic experts, right? We've been doing this for centuries, and it's all about meaning. And these principles are really essential to the future of the kind of work we've been talking about today. Do I have any librarians in the house? Woohoo! All right. So, and this is sort of preaching to the choir when this is an EK event, because I know EK also employs many, many librarians in their organization as well. So who am I? Besides the person in silly pictures, I am a knowledge geek, librarian, tacit knowledge nerd, love taxonomy and metadata. And I have a bachelor's in political science, a master's in political science, and an MLIS, the librarian degree, right? A lot of people don't think you need to, nobody in this room, but a lot of people don't think you need to actually study to be a librarian. They think you're just checking out books and stamping them. But hopefully, some of the talks that I do like this will convince people that it is a qualified profession, and it's more important than ever now. So. I'm American by birth. You can probably hear from my accent. I like to say I'm Swedish by choice. I've lived in Sweden 15 of the last 30 years, probably. Right now, I live right over the bridge. So I took the train, and I just hopped right across the street here. So I live outside of Malmö, Sweden, and I actually live a little bit south of Copenhagen, which boggles people's minds that there's a part of Sweden that's below Denmark. I'm slightly Danish by association, I like to say. I worked 2 years at McKinsey's Copenhagen office, and I also worked 2 years with another consulting firm in Denmark called Implement Consulting Group. And then I helped Kurt with his network for knowledge and information management, and so Danish by association there as well. However, I cannot pronounce or understand any Danish, despite being fluent in Swedish. I don't know what you're doing with your pronunciation. Some of the things I've been doing the last 25 years that are pictured here as well. I had some KM leadership roles at McKinsey & Company, 8 years total. 5 of those were in New York on an internal knowledge operations team, which basically was a team of librarians processing all of the documents that came into the knowledge base, as well as all of the new client engagements. So before anybody could charge anything to a client, it had to go through my team as well, which seems like a finance function, right? We were assigning the charge codes, but the metadata, the classification, making sure it's under the right parent company, all of that was so important to McKinsey that also went through our team. So we also built the enterprise taxonomy there. I built databases for Oprah Winfrey. I'm originally from Chicago, so back in my Chicago days, I did that. That's an interesting thing because in entertainment, it doesn't really matter that you get the best answer, you just need an answer. So if they needed people for a show, we could go into my databases and find, okay, these people can talk about, X, Y, Z subject matter, not a corporation where I need to find the exact precise answer at all times. I just had to find something interesting there, so that was a great job. I also had a professional organizing company for a few years. Legos in closets, it says there. So actually organizing physical things. So I really am a metadata organization nerd because I had children and I wanted to take a break from the corporate life, and people were telling me, why does your house look so nice? Why is everything in perfect categories? And then I thought, well, this is exactly what I've been doing for work. I can just do this in people's houses. So I did that for about 5 years outside New York City. So that's one of the pictures from the ad from that down there. I've also worked in university libraries, 4 of them in Sweden and the US, and a school library in Sweden most recently. I moved to Scandinavia. My husband is Swedish. We decided to move back. And I realized I was still working New York rat race lifestyle hours, and I'm like, I did not move to Scandinavia for this. So I resigned, and then a job opened up just like 10-minute bike ride from my house. You can be a school librarian. So I was like, sure. So then that's why I'm in that outfit up there, because I was the Bookosaurus, and there was a music video and everything. So don't look it up. I don't think it's out there, but. And then I've gotten into podcasting lately. So I have a new one called Shush Free Zone that's about librarians doing cool things, or loud librarians, where I talk to people who have a librarian background who might be working in different areas or doing exciting things. And then I've been the co-host of Knowledge Fika with another knowledge management expert in Sweden named Rebecca Isaacson. But we're just about to publish our last episode of that for a while, because she's gonna focus on some other things. So check those out. And then now I just decided I'm just gonna do what I like to do. So I've started my own consulting company just a few months ago. So mostly I'm doing KM consulting, a lot of speaking, a lot of helping with networks, and then the podcasting thing. So that's me. I've worked at American Express, Oprah. I'm also advising a company called Sugarwork that's doing a lot in the tacit knowledge space. All right, tech solutions and advances promise us order, right? That's a nice cake, but they often deliver chaos. And I think I should get bonus points because it sort of looks like a Danish. Let's see if I can say this. Lauke? Who's Danish in the house? Is that right? Yeah? In Swedish, like I said before, the pronunciation is so different. I would call it Lagergaga or something. Is there any Swedes here? No, I'm the only one who made it over the bridge? Crazy. Yeah, so we have this big promise that everything's going to be made into order with all these new tech solutions. We've been talking a lot about AI, things like that, knowledge graphs. But it doesn't always work the way we expect, right? So before meaning, everything looks like a mess. Meaning is what we're looking for here in the semantic world, right? And these are some pictures from when I actually was a professional organizer. So without context, it's just stuff everywhere, right? So what are we supposed to do with it? Does anybody have a closet that looks like this? I will tell you, when I was a professional organizer, I had to keep my house perfect all the time, because if somebody just stopped by and it was a mess, I was afraid the word would spread. Like, you know what? It's all BS. Her house is a mess. Her kids are not dressed properly. She didn't pack the lunch or something. So I really had to be careful when I had that business. And going on this organizing theme, what do you think that arrow is pointing to? T-shirt? Anything else? No? Come on. What? No. When I was working as a professional organizer, this is how I would start. I would ask, what is this? Right? You would not believe the amount of answers I can get for what is this. And organizing, it's the same way as in librarianship, et cetera. People have different models of how things work in their head, and they make different categories based on how they're thinking. So when I would walk into a house and say, what is this? This is a pretty basic example. It's just a T-shirt, but it could have been anything. Could have been, one lady had a massive hat collection, or one lady actually paid me to sort her tea for 2 days, full time. Tea bags into different categories, whatever. But so you said a T-shirt. Somebody might say summer. Somebody might say shirt. Base layer. Smells like my partner. We're going to wash it in 40 degrees. It's a top. It's casual. It's from H&M. Which one come up now? T-shirt. That was the one you said, right? It's from my dad. You would not believe the amount of discussions I got into with people wanting to keep things for emotional reasons. It was really like being a counselor as well, in many cases. Cotton, workout clothes, white. Camiseta, Maybe they're speaking in Spanish, or they want to label it in Spanish. So just like in these closets, when we look at our information, knowledge, data, actually, I really like that Zach just calls it knowledge assets, because that cleans it up for us, right? I'm always wondering which I should use. So we just call it knowledge assets to encompass everything there. You have to build the categories based on how people think about it. You have to ask them first. If we build it without asking, without user views, without knowing how it's going to be used, it's worthless. So, librarians are the original semantic engineers, I posit. Before dashboard semantic layers, we were the ones translating the raw data into human-friendly knowledge. Now, I know I look young, but when I did go to library school in the last century, we actually had to learn how to make the card. I mean, computers had arrived, obviously, but we had to learn how to make the cards and what the different subjects would be and build the call numbers by hand, et cetera. And you know, there's one physical object, but there's many different entries to it, right? You can enter it by author, subject, title. There's several subject cards. So the user is able to enter it from many different places. And that's the way we should be thinking when we're designing our systems as well. Now they use those card catalogs. Somebody was on my podcast. They actually use it to store seeds. They have a seed library because there's no need for these cards anymore. And also, it's kind of a funky furniture thing, too. A lot of people have them in their homes. So, but this is really how it started out, right? So I'm going to talk a little bit about how these library skills translate into KM type things, and then how that may relate to semantic layer and knowledge graphs. So I have a couple of text-heavy slides here. I'm not going to go into all of the details on them, but just to give you a little bit of a flavor of how I'm thinking about how these worlds relate to each other. So, for example, you have metadata design, which in knowledge management may be called content models, document properties, or knowledge object schemas. And then in the semantic or knowledge graph world, it's helping us by defining the attributes for the node so we can link and query. Another one at the bottom, like I said, I won't go through all of these. We've been talking about them all day. At the bottom, authority control and disambiguation. Identity management, entity resolution, which we just heard about, and master data management. And that also helps us in the knowledge graph world. So there are already people who have these skills out there, maybe in your organizations, right? It's the same stuff, we're just applying it differently. For authority control and disambiguation, authority control could be that you want to have one name for things, or you have somebody with a pseudonym or a different name. Like you could have J.K. Rowling also has other author names that she uses, so you're going to bring those together into one person. Disambiguation, classic example would be like Jaguar, right? What is Jaguar? Is it a car? Is it an animal? Is it Jacksonville Jaguars team? How do we go about doing that? So librarians have been doing that forever, and it just helps us prevent duplication in the graph and makes it easier for our users. And then the stuff in the middle there is what we've been talking about all day pretty much, right? The classic things about controlled vocabulary, ontology, and cataloging. And then here, some other things. We have provenance and lineage tracking, information retrieval design, search UX, and findability. User-centered information architecture. We're going to do a little bit of an interactive exercise on that in a few minutes. And these all apply not only to knowledge management, but also to semantics. Two things that are very important is governance and lifecycle management and ethics and stewardship, especially as we move into the AI area. I feel that ethics and stewardship is very important. For example, you may have subject headings from the library world that are no longer politically correct or sensitive that may need to be changed. Also, just how things are being used and how there's bias in the models we're using in AI. So that's another thing that librarians have been doing forever. Also defending the right to read, making sure everybody has access to things like that. That's another sort of ethos that we bring into this world. So that was a lot, right? There were 10 of them. So I think they really more group into these groups so that we get a more basic view of it. It's organizing chaos, labeling to enable, connecting the dots, and keeping it trustworthy. So these are the areas that I think. So for organizing the chaos, be it your closet, your Legos, your files, your books, that would be metadata cataloging classification are our classic skills that we would apply in the new era. For labeling to enable, the authority control, disambiguation, and metadata standards. For connecting the dots, which is a lot of what we've been talking about here with knowledge graphs and so forth, it's relationships, concepts, and provenance. Provenance is important. That's where did this come from? You want to keep track of that throughout your system. And then, like I said, keeping it trustworthy. We need to keep an eye on governance, ethics, and maintenance. Does anyone have any questions about some of these library skills and how they may apply? Does anybody employ a librarian? Yeah. All right, so you don't necessarily have to be a librarian to apply these skills, but there are people in your organization who have these type of skills that I think it's more important than ever. For a long time, I tried to keep the word librarian out of my title, like 25 years ago, because you have librarian in your title, your pay automatically drops. Your status automatically drops. But now it's really a rebirth, and I'm super excited about it. So that's why I'm evangelizing about it all the time. So I really think that it's an opportunity for people. I've been in the KM world the whole time, but it's really an opportunity for people to shift and apply the skills that they have from other areas to what we're working on now. These are some of the ways that other people have organized it, either by purpose or function. We had a little bit of that flavor here. I didn't see anyone doing audience or stakeholder. You might do that if you went into this knowing that it's for an intranet or something, right? Or for your internal documentation purposes. Lifecycle stage, if you're going to see when you plan, create, deliver, use, or govern. And then there might be personal categories, kind of like you said, stuff, right? I got policy types, people-y things, techie stuff, businessy meetings and stuff. People will label things in different ways, personally. And what's the point here? They're all correct, right? Because this is why it's so important. These kind of library and information science flavored concepts and skills, they give us the methods to translate all of these diverse worldviews into something that we can use. And that's shared vocabularies, consistent structures, explicit relationships, and governed meaning. So don't discount these old school methods for trying to figure out how to make meaning in your organization. And library and information science is how we can move from many mental models into one shared semantic model that we can then use for knowledge management and many other things within our organizations. Does anybody have anything else to say about that exercise? Between this and wine, yeah?
Although I appreciate it online, I think doing it manually was a really good idea. It helped us realise the frustrations of trying to work as a team and having conflicting ideas.
Yeah. I think he's talking about if you're large scale, like within your organization later going home. Yeah. Yeah.
Large scale organization. I was just saying I enjoyed it.
Yeah. Yeah, well, one of the things I mentioned was I used to work at Implement Consulting Group. If there's Danish people here and you've worked with them, it's all about popkort, which are these rectangular type cardboard cards. Every single thing done in that company is sticking popkort on the wall. So there was a lot of this hands-on facilitation there as well. I was at KM World 2 years ago, and I was taking notes on one of those popkort, and somebody came up to me and was like, "Do you work for Implement?" Because they're so like branded with these popkort, which means like cardboard card. They're different colors. So so we did a lot of this like hands-on facilitation type stuff. All right, so to close before we have a discussion or some questions and get our wrap up from Lulit and then wine, I just want to leave you with that. All right, the semantic layers and knowledge graphs define the future of knowledge work. And they also provide the infrastructure to deliver on AI promises, right? A lot of people are finding that they're deploying AI solutions internally in their organizations, and it's not turning out the way they wanted. We saw that statistic earlier, about 95% of the projects are failing. I would argue that one of the main reasons they're failing is because people aren't thinking about the things underpinning them. For example, when I worked at McKinsey, I talked about we had a team of librarians doing all this tagging. Well, fast forward 10 years, and they came out with their Lily solution. Now, where I was working at the time said, Dawn, they did that Lily solution. You used to work there, so let's just put that on our information, data, knowledge assets, whatever you want to call it, and we'll have the same thing. And I said, you don't understand. There was a team working 30 years to get all of that right behind there. There was a team of people tagging all of this. So now some of that can be automated, obviously, with AI. But people don't understand the amount of work that goes behind getting a top-notch system like that. So, and I say that information science is a foundation that all of this needs to be built on. And the LIS concepts and skills are more important than ever. A lot of people told me, maybe 3 years ago, you guys, you librarians, knowledge managers, you're not going to have jobs, right? AI is going to do everything you do. Like, you don't need to tag anything. You don't need to build a taxonomy. That can just be done by the machine now. But we're finding more and more that's not the case. So I'm super excited about it because it's my passion, and now it's coming to the front again. And people are starting to ask, like, is there a librarian type around here who can help us with this? And I'm like, yes. So finally, it's coming around again. So that's all I had for you. I can take some questions if you'd like, and you can connect with me on LinkedIn if you'd like.